Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, wherever you may be. My name is Sam, and this is By Hook or By Needles. And as you can see, I've already cast on for today's tutorial, and we're going to be doing cable stitches. So for cable stitches, you are going to need either some DPNs, like I have here, DPN being double pointed needle, or you can equally use a cable needle like this one, which is looped so that you don't lose your stitches. There are cable needles you can get which are sort of straight and then they sort of have a little V in them. There are, what are the sort? I think that's pretty much the sort. Oh, there's some that I think are like snails and they're like curled. Yeah, there's a few varieties. The thing to remember with your cable needle is you do not want it wider than your knitting needle. If your cable needle is wider than your knitting needle, you will stretch the stitches and it just won't look right. So always select a cable needle that is smaller, and you can tell it's smaller because if you hold them two together like that, you can see just on either side of the cable needle the needle. But you can just as easily use a needle measurer, because cable needles don't come in 4mm, 5mm, and that sort of thing. They just usually come in small, medium, and large. So you do not want a cable needle that is larger than your actual stitches. Like, I would not use this if I was making cables with a 4-ply, or fingering type yarn. It would just stretch the stitches. So you're going to need one of these, or a double pointed needle. You can do this without any cable needles. I know people who do that. I'm not one of them. I guess I don't have the skill to do that. Or I think I'd panic too much that I'd be losing stitches all the time. So, cable. Now let's talk about cable stitches before we even start working it. You will find that most patterns with your, that do cable work will have on either side of the cable panel, and they're usually in panels, are purl stitches. In fact, most of it is worked in garter stitch, which is knitting both sides. So you'll have the knit bumps at the back and front, with the exception of the stitches that are holding the cable. So I'm going to show you 2 4-stitch cables today, and the difference between them is one will slant left and one will slant right, and it's just a matter of whether you put your stitches that you pick up onto your cable needles to the back or the front. Will determine which way your twist, because it looks like a twist, looks like almost like a plait, turns. Just a moment. Oops, pause. Whew, sorry, that's better. Yeah, so yeah, so the cables themselves are worked in stockinette. They are knit at the front. You'll see the knit stitches at the front, which is flat, and at the back will be the purl bumps. Okay, so another thing to consider when you are making something with cables, if you look at, I would say, a vast majority, actually 100% of the patterns I've ever seen worked in cable are solid colors. I will say that. But of those solid colors, I would say 90% of the patterns I find are in cream. And that is, it's a traditional color normally to work cable stitches because, you know, it's classed as an Aran sweater. And they're just knit in cream. And the reason for this is a solid color is best because it lets the stitch be the star, but a lighter color, such as cream, enables you to see the true beauty and the true design of the cables more clearly. No rules, you know, you do what you wish to do. I'm just telling you what is normally recommended. For example, you will not see any cable patterns with a short color change variegated yarn. It's just not done. Doesn't mean you say you can't do it. You can do it, but the pattern is going to be so busy that with all the color changes, you're not going to see it. It's going to get lost. So what's the point of putting all this effort and work into a cable which is just going to not be seen? That is why we use a solid color. There are ways, and I've seen it and it looks fabulous, where the background is one solid color and then they have the cable as a second solid color. Now that looks really good. So you can do that if you want a bit more color in your project. Yeah, so that's something to consider when you're selecting your yarns for this. You want the stitches to be the star. So no variegateds, no really dark colors, because once again, a really dark color is going to hide the cable stitches and you're not going to see the beautiful designs that you can create with cables. Okay, so that being said, we've got our cable needle and we're going to start. I have cast on 20 stitches, and what I'm going to do is, like I say, I'm going to have 2 panels of cables. One I'm going to work with a twist one way, and the other I'm going to work with a twist the other way. And it's just a simple matter of how you use your cable needle. So we're going to start, and I'm going to just knit 5. For this sample. Knit 5. Oh, hang on, no, yeah, the first row is knit all across. Of course it is, because the panels are going to be knit as well. So this is going to be the front of our work. So we knit across all 20 stitches. Okay, and we're going to turn our work. Now, in order for this to work, we need to knit 5 so that we've got knit bumps on our right side. Then we're going to insert our first panel of cable, and to do that we bring our yarn forward and we are going to purl 4. I'm going to, is it 4? Yeah. And I'm going to just purl 4. because that's how wide our cable's panel is going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take the yarn to the back again, and this time I'm just going to knit 2 just to separate the 2 cable types I'm going to show you today, and bring forward and purl 4 again. Knit to the back, purl to yarn to the back, and then we knit the last 5. Okay. Now, when you turn, you will see much easier how this is looking. See how there's a knit panel already, columns already appearing. That is where we're going to put our cables. Okay, so that's 2 rows. Now we're going to do our first actual cable work. So we are going to knit up to the cable panel, and this is where I get a little cable needle. Now, most cable work is written in patterns. It'll have C for cable, and then it'll have a number, and that number is usually corresponds to the number of stitches in the cable panel. So if you see C6, then there's usually 6 stitches in the cable panel. So this one will be C4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's saying cable 4, and then it will say something like it might 2B. Yeah, cable 4 2B I think is usually something like that, or 2F. Now what that means is you're going to pick up 2 stitches, onto your cable, okay, see how that hangs. Now you can put that to the back, or you can put that to the front, and that is going to determine how your cable is going to look. So if I put this to the front and then knit the next 2 stitches, they are going to be behind these stitches. If I put this to the back and then knit these 2 stitches, these are going to be behind this stitches. So in this respect, you're going to have this as the predominant cable, and it's going to be leaning right. If you bring it forward, these are going to be the predominant stitches, and they are going to be leaning left. So let's just do the first one as a left. We leave it at the front. We're going to knit the next 2 stitches. Now we want to knit the 2 stitches from the cable, and this is where most knitters who work with a cable stitch would go like this, and they would work the 2 stitches from the cable needle. I find that a little awkward. That might just be my hands. So what I tend to do is I take the stitches and I just slip these 2 stitches back on to my left needle, and then I knit them, and I just find that a little bit easier. It is a personal preference. Now you can see there's a crossover. Now then I'm going to knit two stitches which are between the two cables. So I'm going to do the next one in the opposite way. So the first one I had the cable needle to the front, and this one I'm going to put the cable needle to the back. So 2 stitches to the back, and I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches and they, as you can see, are leaning right. Then I'm going to put these 2 stitches back onto my left hand needle, and I'm going to knit those. And then I just continue knitting, excuse my voice, continue knitting to the end. Now you can already see this one is leaning inward, and so is this one. So this is leaning left and this one is leaning right. And you can actually do another type of cable where this will stay at the top and it can snake, but I'm not going to include that one here today. We're just going to do these two. So this one, I'm always going to put my 2 knit stitches to the front, and it's always going to be the first 2. It is always the first half of the stitches, usually half, sometimes not. So, you know, make sure you read your pattern legends and that sort of thing. But it's usually half, and it's always the first stitches. Okay, so it's always the first half of the cable stitches that you either put forward or back. Okay, so then you need to just work. You cannot you could, it's going to be very tight and it's not going to look very nice. You could do this cable move every single row, every single right side row. It's going to be, like I say, a very tight wound twist. But mostly you will find there's usually three rows between. So you work that way. No, 4, is it? Must be 4 then. Hang on. Where's my, no, my yarn's that way. Yeah, so I usually go that way, and that way, so that the yarn is on this end. Yep, and then you work another front facing row. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work 3 rows. And the 3 rows are worked as thus. This is the wrong side. And the wrong side is the only side you're sort of changing your yarn from front to back. Okay, so we knit our first 5. Then we come to our cable stitches. We can tell that these are our cable stitches. A, because they're all twisted and funky looking. And B, yeah, the bumps. So we bring our yarn forward and then we purl these, because these are worked in stockinette. Oops. And we want these to be flat on one side, this side, the rear side. Okay, so then we do purl 4, yarn to the back again. We're just going to knit those 2 stitches that are between our 2 cables, bring our yarn forward, and then we purl. Yarn to the back, and we knit 5. that's our first row, and we are going to just knit all the way across. No cable work, we're just knitting all the way across because we want to put some distance between our twists so that they don't look so tight and constricted. So we're just going to knit all the way across. My voice today, dear me. I once knitted a cable cardigan for somebody in black. She insisted it was black, and I said, but you're not going to see any of the cables. And she said, I don't care. And I said, fine. And I knitted it all in black. See, now you can see the twist a little bit better. And this is a little bit of a break. You can see a lot better, hopefully. Now, this is going to be our third and last row before we do our next cable work row. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to purl 5, purl 4, sorry, 1, 2, 3, and 4. As you can see, that's our cable panel to the back. We're going to knit 2 because that's the count I decided to use to separate the two cables, and then we're going to purl 4. And then back to the back, and we knit our last 5. Okay, and we're back at a section now where we're going to do another cable row, and you can see really clearly now how that's moving to the left and this one's moving to the right. So get our cable needle nearby. We are going to knit 5, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We've got our knit stitches, our cable stitches. So we are going to pick up the first 2 and we are going to hold them to the front. We're going to knit the next 2, and then we're going to pick these up and put them onto the left hand needle again, and we're going to knit 2. There you go. See a little nice little twist. Then we're going to knit the next 2. And we come to our next cable panel. And this time we're going to put the 2 stitches to the back. And then we're going to knit these 2. And I'm going to pick up these 2 stitches from the cable needle, and I'm going to knit those. Oops, I'm almost purled then, but no. Then I knit the last 5. Now you can see, or should be able to see, quite clearly the twists. See how they're twisting in different directions? And all that's done by just whether we put the cable needle to the front or the back of the work. And that's all there is to cable knitting. It's changing the order of the stitches. And I've just remembered, no, it's, if this one would be written, I think, in a pattern as C4F, which means cable 4 forward, because you're putting, so it's telling you it's a 4-stitch cable panel. You're taking half of the first stitches and you're bringing them forward on the cable needle when you work it. And these would be called, this would be called cable 4 B back, because you're putting them to the back. Yeah. But sometimes with cables, you might even, usually they're in even numbers. Sometimes they can be in odd numbers, and you might find that it might tell you to put 3, you know, like it might be a 5 cable panel, and they might tell you to put 3 to the back, knit 2, and then knit the 3 from the cable. Sometimes it might be 3 stitches, and it might tell you to put 1 to the front or the back and knit the other 2. Or you might need to put, you know, 2 on the cable and knit the other one. So it can be mixed up a lot and vary a lot, but that is basically how you do it. It really is a lot more simple than it appears to be. Obviously this is just a very basic cable. It's, you know, a left twist and a right twist. I'm going to knit a lot more, but remembering that you will do 3 rows in between each twist, so you will need a stitch counter. And yeah, and I think I love cables. I really do. I think cables, when a cable jumper was the first sort of jumper I ever knit, even before I knit a plain garter stitch jumper. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to knit some more and come back and show you the end result.
Hi, my name is Maggie, and my mummy says you need to hit that like and subscribe button because of this YouTubey something or others, something something important. Anyway, thank you. Bye.
Okay, so there you go. I have added a few more rows, and you can see that you can see the cables very clearly there. One twist's leaning towards the left, the other leaning towards the right. As usual, the written pattern will be included on both the posts tab of my channel and also the Facebook group page. I'll put links for both in the description box in case you want to go and have a look at those. And of course this video will be available to review the how-to as well. So good luck with that. I hope you enjoyed learning how to do cables. Eventually there will be some more complex or different cables that I will show you how to do. And yeah, till next time, bye for now.